We're in Whitehorse, Yukon, which is located just north of 60 degrees latitude. The city is right along the Alaska Highway and has a population of about 30,000 people. Now, we've seen news stories about $30 cans of soup and $9 jugs of milk in remote regions of northern Canada. But what's the cost of living in the more populated and accessible northern city of Whitehorse, Yukon? Whitehorse, Yukon is a beautiful city located right along the Yukon River. But what does it cost to stay here? Let's look at the prices across 6 different categories, starting with getting here. Whitehorse is very popular on the RV driving circuit. Chris and I know this as our first time here was a few years ago on our northern BC and Yukon road trip. Gas in the Whitehorse area costs about $1.90 per liter, but this year we're flying up. Like most major destinations in Canada, you can get here using Air Canada. Flights from Vancouver to Whitehorse start at about $199 one way. But we're going to try a different airline for this trip. Our first time flying Air North. I'm told by locals that the Air North pilots have additional training to be able to land in more challenging northern weather conditions. It's happened where Air North flights have been able to land in Whitehorse, while Air Canada flights have had to reroute back to Vancouver when the weather is bad. Our Air North seats also provided a good amount of legroom, and we enjoyed delicious, complimentary, fresh baked goods with a side of fruit as well. Now let's move on to the price of food. Whitehorse has major grocers like Walmart and the Real Canadian Superstore. We found the prices here to be very similar to the prices we've seen in other cities in Canada, like Vancouver, Toronto, and Ottawa. Bananas are 79 cents a pound, eggs are $4.10 a dozen, and the store brand bread is $1.99 a loaf. And to our surprise, we also found that Air North sells frozen food at the grocery stores here too. Because Chris and I are here as emergency management responders and staying in a hotel room, we're looking for ready-to-eat meals. The Superstore has a pretty good selection, and we found lots of options that cost about $15 for 2 people. Eating out at restaurants is definitely more expensive than the grocery stores, but the prices are still comparable to Vancouver. This Power Bowl at one of the local pubs was $23. For an alternative to grocery stores and restaurants, the Fireweed Community Market runs every Thursday afternoon in the summer months, and we find it's a great spot to pick up freshly made baked goods and even some locally grown produce. Walking a few blocks away from the market takes us to Main Street, which has lots of cute cafes and is a great place to souvenir shop. Now let's move on to healthcare. Like the rest of Canada, residents of Yukon have access to government-funded healthcare services. However, after talking to some locals, I understand that there is a huge shortage of doctors and other healthcare workers here. I've heard that people line up for hours outside of health clinics and hospitals just to get basic healthcare. And if you need more advanced treatments, you will likely have to travel to another city. On to housing. If you're planning on signing a long-term rental agreement here, you can find one-bedroom apartments starting at about $1,100 a month. And prices go up from there depending on the amenities, location, and style of building you're renting in. And the average sale price of a single detached house is about $650,000. Hotels during the summer months can be several $100s per night or more. But during the shoulder season, there are plenty of rooms in the $175 a night range.
Last year we were in Whitehorse, staying in our micro camper, sleeping at rest stops. We'll see if the accommodations are better or worse this year.
In my opinion, our hotel room is pretty comfortable, but kind of expensive for what's being offered. And the hotel fitness center was just okay. Fortunately, the Canada Games Center is just a short drive away. It has a fantastic swimming pool that opens at 5:30 a.m. and a much bigger fitness center than the hotel, and it overlooks the arena. A drop-in here costs $8.95. But the real draw of Whitehorse is getting outside and being in nature. The city has a trail that takes you along the river from the downtown area all the way to the fish ladder. I love running along this trail in the morning. And if you're here in the late summer or early fall, you can stop in to see the salmon go through the fish ladder. Entry here is by donation. Not a lot of salmon going through today. Just south of the city is the stunning Miles Canyon. This is one of my favorite hiking spots by Whitehorse. It's free to visit and there are tons of trails to take. Just don't forget your bear spray. Kayaking along the river is another option. The canoe people rent kayaks for $85 per person for a half-day trip. Less than an hour south of the city is the Carcross Desert. It's pretty cool to check out the sand dunes that stretch for much farther out than I expected. But I want to warn you that this is also a tourist destination for the Alaska cruises, and so it's expensive. The sand dunes are free to walk on, but we made the mistake of not packing our own lunch when we visited here, and we ended up paying a ridiculous $28 for a bison burger. The last place I want to talk about in this video on prices in Whitehorse is the Eclipse Nordic Hot Springs. It's located about 30 minutes north of town, and it's a great place to relax after all the outdoor activities. The standard rate to get in is $60 a person, but they had a booth at the fireweed market, and we were able to purchase our tickets for just $45 a person. They also have great deals if you're a local or spending a longer period of time in Whitehorse. This was my second time visiting the spa, and it is a really nice experience. And it's a fraction of the price of similar spas I've seen in the ski resort town of Whistler, British Columbia. So those are the prices we saw in the northern Canadian city of Whitehorse, Yukon. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.